Hey everybody, welcome back to Go Read Some Comics with me, Professor Jenna. DC has officially greenlit and given release dates to two new movies, Clayface and dynamic duo. Clayface, which is live action, is being released on September 11th, 2026. There isn't a director confirmed yet, but it will be written by Mike Flanagan, who is known for shows like The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Haunting of Hill House, and Midnight Mass. And Dynamic Duo, the animated movie about Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, which was announced to be in the works earlier this fall, will debut on June 30th, 2028. Even though Clayface is set in the DCU, as confirmed by James Gunn's tweet announcing the news, and Dynamic Duo seems to be in its own canon, the Batman director Matt Reeves is producing both projects. Let me start with Clayface. This has been a superhero project that has felt way too good to be true for years now. Flanagan tweeted all the way back in 2021 that he wanted to make a standalone horror/thriller/tragedy movie about Clayface, but it seemed like nothing would come of that amid the ever-evolving DCEU regime. While there have been literally 8 different incarnations of Clayface in the comics, including Lady Clayface Sandra Fuller, who has a special place in my heart, you probably know Basil Carlo, a B-list actor who loses his mind after hearing that his movie franchise is going to be remade without him. Even he has gone through multiple evolutions over the years, starting out as a masked serial killer in a purple suit, and eventually getting a more fantastical origin and shape-shifting powers. He has been all over animation and television, and a lot of people probably know him through his very comedic turn on the Harley Quinn animated show, but this would be his first significant appearance in a live-action film. I totally understand hearing this news and maybe feeling a little bit burnt out of the villain solo movie trope, especially after Joker 2 and Sony's Spider-Man universe. Granted, at the time I'm recording this, we know nothing about Flanagan's actual pitch for the Clayface movie, but long before it became a reality, I had a feeling that it would hypothetically center on Basil, because his story and his personality are just too tragic and horrific and poignant not to. If Clayface is about Basil, I feel like it could be a really cool polar opposite to Marvel's Wonder Man show, being self-aware about having a superpowered character in the entertainment industry, but dealing with it from a much sadder, darker angle. If you haven't watched any of Flanagan's filmography yet, I highly recommend changing that as soon as possible. Midnight Mass is truthfully one of the best TV shows I've ever seen, and it has visuals and moments of character that are still stuck with me years after I first watched it. Bly Manor and The Fall of the House of Usher are also really great too. Throughout his projects, he takes a really great and tactful approach to trauma and horror and emotional guilt, all of which feel perfectly tailor-made for bringing Basil's story to life. Even if Flanagan doesn't end up directing this, which feels like that might be a possibility depending on the Exorcist reboot that he's working on, I can't wait to see what staples and recurring cast members of his possibly make their way into the movie. I could honestly make equal arguments for Hamish Linklater, Zach Gilford, and Raul Coley, all absolutely killing it as Clayface. Also, Clayface getting greenlit is really promising to me in terms of the construction of the DCU. To me, it shows that the franchise is unafraid to hear those pitches that wouldn't have been a priority in the previous regime. The movie getting fast-tracked for a fall 2026 release is also super encouraging too. I totally would not mind if we oscillate between the big budget projects like Superman and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow and the more mid to small budget projects like this. It's a kind of flexibility that the other superhero franchises don't currently have, and it further cements the argument that the DCU is more than just big blockbuster superhero fare. Literally, as I was editing this, a report came out saying that Clayface's budget might be $40 million, which that is answering my prayers. That's exactly what I'm talking about, and I cannot wait to see what that creatively looks like on screen. On a canon level, I'm also very encouraged to see how Flanagan's script possibly introduces Gotham and the Bat family and that whole ecosystem before we fully see it in something like Brave and the Bold, as well as how it factors into what we see of Clayface in the remaining episodes of Creature Commandos. I feel like there's only so much I can say about Dynamic Duo at this point, especially because it's already been greenlit for a couple months now. On a canon level, I really love the idea of a story where Dick and Jason are contemporaries. Their origins as Robin are kind of ships in the night, with one ship ultimately getting hit with a crowbar. As Nightwing and as Red Hood, they definitely have a more brotherly bond, but it feels like Dynamic Duo's approach is going to be so much deeper and so much more scrappy. Skeleton Crew has been knocking my socks off so far, in part because its kid characters are so charming, so I love the prospect of possibly getting that from DC Studios without any baggage or preconceived lore around it. I will bang this drum until the end of time. Superhero stories should be able to inspire and delight kids instead of just solely catering to the nerdy adults with disposable income. Spider-Verse and the most recent Ninja Turtles movie already proved this in spades, and I think Dynamic Duo is going to do the same on the DC side. I also have a feeling that it is just going to look incredible. The animation studio working on it, Swaybox, uses a technique called moto animation, which combines live action, stop motion, and CGI. I highly recommend watching their full demo reel online if you haven't already done so. Some reports are also saying that DC is locking down 2 other release dates, May 29, 2026 and March 5th, 2027. If that is true, I'm not going to spend too long speculating, especially because it feels like we'll get an answer soon enough. I wouldn't be surprised if the Batman Part 2 is ultimately delayed to that March date, but if it's it's not, I personally could see Sergeant Rock taking that May 2026 date, and maybe Teen Titans or Swamp Thing taking the March 2027 date. If everything comes together and we do get a movie in May, Supergirl in June, Clayface in September, The Batman in October, and another movie in March, I am going to ascend out of my body. Having lived through so many DC droughts where we could maybe get a movie a year, this is wild. Also, to everyone who has reacted to this news by panicking about other projects,
patience.
A project being announced and a project being greenlit are not necessarily the same thing, and James has repeatedly said that they won't rush a project into production until the script is really ready. I have always expected the actual DCU slate to ebb and flow outside of the 10 projects that we initially first heard about, because that's just how movie making works. Hell, the Marvel Studios slate has changed so much over the years and people have just kind of embraced it. As someone who is extremely excited for Paradise Lost and Booster Gold and Swamp Thing and The Authority, I would rather wait a little while for those projects to be perfect than expect them at some arbitrary release date. And either way, we are getting fed. Which movie are you more excited for, Clayface or Dynamic Duo? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow me on social media at HatesJennaLynn. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, especially so you don't miss my Creature Commandos breakdown videos. Thank you to everyone who has already loved and watched the GI Robot video that I posted for episode 3. And as always, go read some comics.